shooting at interstellar visitors who are a million years ahead of us? Not likely. But if from World War II, this comes back to the whole Venus colliding and how we don't know gravity. The bottom line in the Werner von Braun story was that we really don't understand gravity. But if you invert the equation, the anomalies that von Braun and his team observed that night, which was 50 years ago, if you put a bunch of top scientists and engineers in secret with unlimited black ops money, you could create a veritable secret space flight armada with that kind of technology and money.
Back with more with Richard C. Hoagland in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Next hour, we'll start our 2012 trilogy. You're going to enjoy it. When we come back, though, we'll chat with Richard C. Hoagland more about the new military policy of hush-hush on any incoming fireballs or bodies using satellites. And then we'll also get Richard's views on 2012. You know, he's working on a special with NBC Sci-Fi, so we'll chat with him about that as well. Now, here's a scientist's observations about this military decision not to release information by satellites. He said, it's baffling to us why this would suddenly change. We've always had a cooperative arrangement. This is very regrettable. This is very strange, Richard C.
Well, remember the Iridium-Russian satellite collision?
Yes.
That was supposed to be an accident, and we proved it was not. And then the Russian, a major general in the Russian intelligence service also accused us of doing it deliberately.
Yes.
There's stuff going on upstairs that we're not supposed to know about. Now, you might ask, well, wait a minute. If there really is a war going on out there, how come it's not like any other war we've ever experienced? You know, like we just celebrated the 65th anniversary of D-Day. How come we don't have invasions? We don't have alien troops on soil. We don't have cities being bombed from orbit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I say it ain't aliens. It's not ETs. It's two factions of this supranational government, the so-called secret government, which has been in operation since the war, since World War II, if you look at, Joseph Farrell's data and my data and a number of other people. And neither side wants the terrestrial population of 6 billion people to know that gravity can be controlled.
So you fight it up there.
You fight it up there. You fight it in skirmishes. You keep it out of the headlines. You don't let anybody down here know there's anything interesting going on, and it's for God knows what out there, but we're never supposed to know. That, by the way, is another take on the wacko Venus is going to collide with Earth theory. The reason that an editor who might be on the take, bought by the Black Ops crowd, would put that story out is to make people think that science knows everything. My God, they can even calculate in 3.5 billion years that Venus is going to collide with Earth. In other words, the illusion of omnipotence.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very suspicious of a whole bunch of stuff which is coming out now because I know from other sources, both from our own calculations, our own observations, as well as good old leakages, sources, that there's something really major going on. And remember, we just had a major event happen in this country, right? What was it?
We've had many major events happen.
What's the biggest event in the last year that happened in this country?
The economy.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
What?
The election of Barack Obama. The guy nobody wanted. The guy who was the outsider.
All right, that's dramatic.
The guy who was the first non-white guy president in the history of the country. And his policies are out of step with a whole bunch of people, as you will see as this unfolds, as I said even before. Remember, I won my bet, George, by saying he would be elected. How did I do that?
You won your bet. You're a sleuth. How do I know?
I took my dots, my collection of data, I put it in line, and I made a projection. Science is nothing if it's not projection and prediction. And based on that, I'm continuing to project what history is going to turn into. This guy is turning over some very interesting rocks. Look at what he's doing on the tariff front that the radical right is furious about, doesn't understand. Look at how his speech in Cairo the other day apparently influenced the Lebanese election in our favor.
Let's see if it works in Iran in the next couple of days.
We're going to see on Friday whether Ahmadinejad's days are numbered in Iran. Wouldn't it be interesting if behind the scenes, the geopolitics that we're not allowed to know are part of this, whatever's going on upstairs, that we know is not using rockets? Give me a break. NASA is not that obsolete. So then we look at this sudden order to keep scientists from accessing data, which is totally vital to keeping Earth secure, let alone the United States, the whole planet secure, because all it takes is one big rock, and you've had a very bad hair day.
You going to join me if I get Mike Griffin, former NASA chief, on the show?
Absolutely.
You're not going to beat him up, are you?
No, I'll be civil. I'm a very civil guy, as you know, but I will ask hard questions.
All right. Two quick things before we get into 2012. Japanese probe slams into the moon tonight. What do you think?
God, if you go to the Enterprise.com website, EnterpriseMission.com, we have some spectacular photographs taken by the Anglo-Australian Observatory, which is in New South Wales in Australia. We couldn't see anything here because it was bright sunlight in the afternoon.
Right.
But it was night over there on the other side of the world. And just at the edge of the boundary between the day side and the night side of a not quite full moon, this thing at 6,000 miles an hour slammed into the moon in its final orbit. They got pictures, CCD pictures, and we have them posted on the EnterpriseMission.com website. And just below that, I found a stunning sequence of a total solar eclipse in color that Selene, which was the Japanese spacecraft name, took looking back toward the Earth from lunar orbit of what a lunar eclipse looks like if you look at it from the moon, which, of course, is a solar eclipse looked at from the moon. And the images are absolutely spectacular. So go to the Enterprise website, take a look, and then click on the images taken by the Anglo-Australian telescope, and you'll see the full story. It's kind of a fitting end for a very interesting mission. But, of course, that opens up the question, what were the Japanese doing in lunar orbit anyway since 2007? Why did the Chinese go to lunar orbit? Why did the Indians go to lunar orbit? Why has Putin said to the Indians, hey, we want to take you and go with Russian cosmonauts to the moon? Why is suddenly everybody interested in the moon after they've not been interested in 40 years since we went and came back and been there, done that? The answer, as I told a major Moscow glossy magazine that interviewed me last week, there's something on the moon that everybody now wants. Again, we're not supposed to know. The 6 billion of us that don't run things, that aren't part of the Fed and aren't part of government and aren't part of the Senate and the House, aren't part of Parliament, don't make laws, don't decide the fate of nations. We're never supposed to know any of the important stuff, but it's going on upstairs. And that, again, to come back to the military story, is I think why they have put finis on sharing the data, because now it's getting so hot, literally, they don't dare.
Now, also, why were you so excited today when you sent me this story of this massive red star in the constellation Orion that is shrinking?
Betelgeuse. Well, this kind of is a nice segue into our 2012 evening. Again, just kind of, play speculation game with me for a minute.
Okay.
You always ask, how could the Mayans have known?
Yes.
Hundreds of years ago that something was going to happen in 2012 and put it in their calendar, okay? And I say again and again and again because somebody told them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of people that come on this show that talk about extraterrestrial visitations. They talk about aliens. They talk about grays. I talk about human beings, our predecessors, before we, were retreating to this planet and were basically forced to reinvent civilization because of some terrible catastrophe. And I've said for years that the stuff we're finding on the NASA data, the ESA data, the Soviet data, all the other space data that's out there in the solar system is basically our stuff. It's the great-great-great-great-great-grandmothers of the human race that did that, and something incredibly bad happened. Too bad Tom Van Flannery is not around to talk about this with us more. And we are the result. Well, suppose those guys, human beings, visited the Maya